Hi, and welcome back to this Monday edition of Focal Point AFR Talk. Great to have you in the conversation today. The war on Christ continues. You notice I'm not referring to it as the war on Christmas. It is a war on Christ. Because the only reason that people object to Christmas trees and nativity scenes and Christmas symbols is because of the first 6 letters that are found in the word Christmas, because it's about Christ. It's about the birth of Christ. It's about the person of Christ. And that's what aggravates the repressive, demonic, satanic fury of secular fundamentalists. They cannot abide the public acknowledgement or recognition of the name of Jesus Christ. You know, it's interesting. I did a radio interview last night on the Talk Radio Network with a program that I was not familiar with before, but it was interesting that the host, one of the hosts, had written a letter to the Gap. We are calling for a boycott, a 2-month boycott of the Gap and Old Navy and Banana Republic. Now, Old Navy has come out. They're all part of the same umbrella, but Old Navy has come out with a couple of ads that do use the word Christmas. And so we are tentatively thinking of moving this from moving them from our naughty list to our marginal list into the yellow light column from the red light column. Gap hasn't moved. They haven't done any ads that use the word Christmas, so Gap is on the naughty list, right where they've always been. But it was interesting, this radio host wrote a stronger letter even than not a stronger letter, but wrote a letter that could have come from the American Family Association. She explained to the Gap that she was offended by their intolerance toward Christmas and toward Christians, that she's going to take her shopping dollars somewhere else. She's going to take her shopping dollars to a retailer who has respect for this quintessential American tradition, a part of our history, a part of our values. So it was a very friendly conversation. But the war on Christmas continues. You got this judge in Santa Monica. Well, I don't know if it was a judge in Santa Monica. I think maybe the city just caved in, and they decided to ban all religious speech in local parks. For 59 years, there's been a nativity in Santa Monica. The city, because of the atheists that rattle their cages, bang on their pots and their pans and make all this kind of noise, they just decided they'd ban political speech altogether. But the believers in Santa Monica, led by my good friend Patrick Mahoney, found a way around that. They discovered that the ban was on unattended nativity displays. If it's an attended nativity display, in other words, there's somebody there attending to it, or if it's a live nativity scene, then you can have it there. And so they got permission on December 8th to have a live nativity scene right there in the park, Palisades Park in Santa Monica, from 1 to 4 p.m. Now, it's a shame you have to go through these sort of contortions in order to honor this essential American tradition. By the way, apparently Barack Obama and Michelle did not get the memo that Christmas trees are unconstitutional. They've got, you know how many Christmas trees they've got in the White House? Michelle is out there bragging about this. 54 Christmas trees. 54, count them, in the White House. So apparently, well, it's constitutional. That's public property. I mean, the White House belongs to the people. If a nativity scene or a Christmas tree is unconstitutional in front of a county courthouse, then it is way unconstitutional in the White House. But apparently, the secular fundamentalists are going to leave Barack and Michelle Obama alone. Now, you think about this for a minute. Michelle has got 49 trees. I don't know what the cost is for the trees and the decorations and all that kind of stuff. They're not even going to be around. They're going to be off on their $4 million Christmas holiday in Hawaii. They're not even going to be around to enjoy even one of these 54 Christmas trees. They're leaving December 17, coming back on January 6th. It's interesting to me that is at the very crunch time for dealing with this fiscal cliff, this emergency, this catastrophic fiscal cliff. Even Ben Bernanke and the CBO saying, we're going off a cliff. We're going to hit the bottom. This is like Thelma and Louise going into the Grand Canyon if we don't do something. What does Barack Obama do? He goes off to Hawaii on a $4 million vacation, leaving on December 17. He's not going to be around for any sort of negotiations or conferences I suppose they can fly something over to Hawaii for him to sign, track him down on the golf course, have him sign it there. But it costs $182,000 per hour. That's the cost to fly Obama's 747 jet, Air Force One. Now it's 9 hours to Hawaii. That's a $1.638 million one-way ticket to get Obama to Hawaii and then back. So you're looking at $3.2 million just to fly him. But the good news is their bags fly free. That's the good news. Now, I want to talk about this war on Christ, and I want to suggest to you that it is judges. When judges ban Christmas trees and nativity scenes, they are the ones that are in violation of the Constitution. Now, you got a lot of judges, federal judges have ruled against it. Can't have a Christmas tree, can't have a nativity scene. And a lot of cities have just preemptively folded their tent. Rather than fight it, they just shut down. They just collapse. They don't want to run the risk of a lawsuit. They don't want to run the risk of paying attorney's fees. So they just fold up shop. But it is the judges who issue these rulings. It's not the cities that are in violation of the Constitution and the so-called separation of church and state or the First Amendment. It is the judges that are in violation of the Constitution and the First Amendment. Remember that the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Now, whatever else these judges are doing, they are prohibiting the free exercise of religion, because you have some governing body, representatives of the people, expressing the will of the people who elected them to office. Might be a school board, might be a city council, might be a state government. And representing the will of the people, they have decided to have a nativity display or a Christmas tree. And the Constitution prohibits the central government, the federal government, from interfering with the free exercise of religion. They're not allowed to do it. Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. Now remember, we've got three branches of government. Congress enacts law, the executive branch enforces the law, and the judicial branch applies the law. But none of that can happen. The the executive branch has got nothing to do until Congress passes a law. When Congress enacts a law, then it's the job of the executive branch to implement that law and to enforce it. But unless Congress passes a law, the executive branch has nothing to do. Now, the judiciary, likewise, has nothing to do unless there is a law that is under discussion, because their job is to apply the law when there is a conflict. Now, ask yourself this question. Has Congress ever, a single time, has Congress ever enacted a law that prohibits nativity displays or Christmas trees on public property? Have they ever done that? The answer is no. That means there is no cause of action. There is no law here for the Supreme Court even to apply, because Congress has never prohibited it. And if Congress has to make a law before the executive branch has anything to do and before the judiciary has anything to rule on, then that is essentially a prohibition against the entire central government. Whether it's executive branch or judicial branch, the entire executive branch is prohibited from interfering with the free exercise of religion by the First Amendment. They can't do it. So if a judge intervenes and says you can't freely exercise your religious faith in Santa Monica or some school or some state capitol or some courthouse in a county or in front of a city hall, if any branch of the federal government says you can't do that, they are interfering with the free exercise of religion. If a judge does that, he is violating his oath of office. Remember, Thomas Jefferson said, what we are going to do with these miscreants, these out-of-control judges, we are going to bind them down from mischief by the chains of the Constitution. So Thomas Jefferson understood that there are some binding chains in the Constitution. We're going to wrap them around the ankles of these judges. We're going to wrap them around their wrists. We're going to wrap them around their waist. We're going to put them in shackles, and we are going to chain them to the pillar of the Constitution. We are going to bind them down. If we let them loose, it's going to be mischief. That was his words. So we're going to bind them down from mischief by chaining them to the pillar of the Constitution. But now this monster, whom I call Judiciosaurus Rex, not Tyrannosaurus Rex, but Judiciosaurus Rex, is now loose. It's a frightful monster, and it and all of its minions have been loosed from their restraints, and they now prowl the earth like some ghoulish whack-a-mole, looking relentlessly for some display of Christmas sentiment to pound into oblivion. So let's be clear in sum. When a federal judge rules against a nativity scene or a Christmas tree, he is the one who is violating the Constitution. He is the one who is violating his sacred oath of office. And according to the founders, if we deal with the Constitution as the founders gave it to us, a federal judge's ruling against a nativity scene or Christmas tree has no legal force whatsoever. It has no legal force because the federal government is prohibited from interfering with the free exercise of religion. Here's how I finish my column. It's up at rightlyconcerned.com if you want to go read it. Judges trample the Constitution in their war on Christ is the title of the piece. Here's how I close the column. America will be free once again when local and state governments start ignoring such blatantly unconstitutional rulings and choose freedom over tyranny, just as our founders did at the beginning. Let freedom reign, and let it begin with Christmas. And that's my column for today. Now, at the bottom of the hour here in just about a minute, we'll have Mike McManus from Marriage Savers on with us. We're going to talk about this shooting, this tragedy, where this Kansas City Chiefs player killed his girlfriend and then turned the gun on himself. 2 victims, a 3-month-old daughter left parentless. And it's interesting, I sent a tweet out this morning, and it's interesting the tweets that get reaction. This one just lit up a firestorm. I said the problem here is not that there were too many guns, but that there were too few. This victim, the woman, was left defenseless. She had no way to protect herself against an armed attacker. Problem, not too many guns, too few. Boy, that lit them up in the Twitter sphere. Back in 2 Focal Point AFR Talk.